Welcome to Gridiron Ring, a sports talk show covering football and professional wrestling. This week, I'll be covering both those topics, so be sure to go check out all three videos. College football Week 6 predictions, that's what you're watching right now, so thank you for that. Be sure to go check out NFL Week 5 predictions and WWE Super Showdown Preview Predictions 2018. I'll be on Periscope for WWE Super Showdown at 5 a.m. this Saturday morning, Saturday, October 6, 2018. Got some good college games and some good NFL games this upcoming weekend as well, so I'll preview and predict those. This, as I said, is College Football Week 6 predictions, so thanks for watching. I'll recap Week 5 here real quick and then get into my Week 6 predictions. I went 19-8 last week, bringing my overall record to 78-34 on the year. All 27 games last weekend were, average. There was one that stuck out. Best game of the week I thought was stood out. Not stuck out. The best game of the weekend that stood out, in my opinion, the best game of the weekend, best game of the season so far, was the game that I attended, was Ohio State and Penn State on Saturday night, the Whiteout in Happy Valley, and that's when my voice is, still a little hoarse, even though it's Tuesday, the 2nd of October, as we are officially into October now and moving closer to Thanksgiving and Christmas, and the college football playoff and NFL playoffs will be here before we know it. But last Thursday, Miami, Florida defeated North Carolina by a score of 47-10. Colorado defeated UCLA on Friday night 38-16. The Bruins start 0-4 for the first time since 1971. Texas A&M defeated Arkansas 24-17. Oklahoma State defeated Kansas in some Big 12 action by 20, 48-28. Boston College, Steve Adazio, got some revenge on his old program, Temple. They defeated the Owls by 10, 45-35. Clemson hung on, defeated Syracuse 27-23. Before this game, Kelly Bryant decided to transfer. He lost his job to Trevor Lawrence, who ended up getting hurt in the Syracuse game. I remember last year, Clemson went up to Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. The Orangemen upset the Tigers, but Clemson got revenge this year, 27-23. As I said, Trevor Lawrence got hurt. Chase Bryce had to step in, led Clemson to victory. Trevor Lawrence will come back, though, this weekend and start for Clemson against Wake Forest on the road in Winston-Salem. I'll predict that game here in a minute. West Virginia went down to Lubbock, defeated Texas Tech 42-34. Will Grier played a wedding crasher. They actually had a wedding ceremony during halftime of this game, but as I said, Will Grier played a wedding crasher this past Saturday. He threw for 3 touchdowns and 375 yards. NC State defeated Virginia by 2 scores, 35-21. Georgia defeated Tennessee in the SEC, 38-12. Nebraska falls to 0-4. They lost Purdue at home, 42-28. Oklahoma defeated Baylor by 33, 63-33. And then Texas defeated Kansas State by 5, 19-14. Oklahoma and Texas play this weekend at noon in the Red River Rivalry. Florida State defeated Louisville on the road by 4, 28-24. East Carolina defeated Old Dominion 37-35. Old Dominion couldn't keep the train rolling after upsetting Virginia Tech the previous week at home. Michigan scored 20 unanswered, defeat Northwestern on the road in Evanston 20-17. Maryland goes to Michigan this weekend, so Michigan gets Maryland home, and then Northwestern goes to Michigan State. Dan Mullen returned to Starkville with his Florida Gators, defeated Mississippi State by a touchdown, 13-6. Virginia Tech, they bounced back. The Hokies bounced back against Duke, who was ranked 22nd in the AP Top 25 poll last weekend. They are unranked now after losing 31-14 to Virginia Tech. Boise State defeated Wyoming in the Mountain West 34-14. Kentucky defeated South Carolina 24-10. Kentucky 5-0 and 3-0 in the SEC for the first time since 1977. Notre Dame defeated Stanford 38-17 on Saturday night on NBC. Stanford, no running game basically all season, including this game. Now Bryce Love's hurt. What are the Cardinals going to do? We'll have to find out and see. They play Utah this Saturday. LSU defeated Ole Miss 45-16. LSU goes to the Swamp to play Florida. USC defeated Arizona 24-20. This game was still on by the time I got home Saturday night after the Penn State-Ohio State game. Arizona, they had their chances. They were down. They scored late, ended up missing an extra point. So if they would have got the extra point, kicked an onside kick, got it, they still had a chance. They could have had a chance to kick a game-tying field goal or a game-winning touchdown, score a game-winning touchdown. But the Trojans went to Tucson, defeated Arizona by 4, 24-20. Fresno State put up 49 on Toledo, defeated them 49-27. Washington defeated BYU 35-7. Washington State Cougars had 0 yards rushing against Utah, but they still hung on and won by 4. Oregon defeated Cal 42-24, and then Ohio State, they hung on and defeated Penn State. They came back and defeated the Nittany Lions 27-26. First home loss for Penn State in almost 3 years, going back to November 21st, 2015. This game really stings. The loss for Penn State really stings, in my opinion. Probably the in my lifetime, probably the worst loss, home loss I've ever experienced. Probably tied for the worst loss in general, home or away bowl game in my lifetime, going back for Penn State, being a Penn State fan, going back to 2005 when Penn State played Michigan in Ann Arbor. The refs put an extra second on the clock. Chad Henne found Mario Manningham for I believe it was a 7-yard touchdown pass, and Michigan defeated Penn State 27-25 in that game. And so scores somewhat close as well. Penn State loses Ohio State by 1 for the second consecutive year. And that was Penn State's only loss back in 2005. If they wouldn't have lost that, they probably would have ran the table. But, that's why they play the games. Who knows if that's how they would have finished. They ended up going to the Orange Bowl, beating Florida State in triple overtime that year. But Penn State, they could have played in the national title that year. Could have, they still could this year. I'm not rolling that out. I don't think anybody really should. But it's going to be hard, especially with a early season loss. But it's not like they lost Penn State, not like they lost to like Alabama A&M. They lost to Ohio State, number 4 overall team in the country, on Saturday going into the game. Ohio State moved up to 3, then jumped to Clemson after Clemson hung on, almost lost to Syracuse. So top 4, going to do the top 4 teams in the country. You got Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Clemson, and then LSU's at 5. And then, in a couple weeks, the College Football Playoff Committee will be getting together for the first time and determining who, and then they'll go by those rankings the rest of the year, determine who they think are the top 4 teams in the country, and then we'll get our top 4 teams for the College Football Playoff come the first weekend in December, the day after all the conference championship games. So that'll be Sunday, December 2nd. But as I said, this Penn State loss to Ohio State really stings. I'm going to read off word by word everything I wrote down here, so just stick with me here. I have congrats to Ohio State. You got to give credit where credit is due. Penn State got out to an early 13-0 lead, even after missing a field goal in the first quarter that really came back and bit them in the ass. Ohio State scored right before halftime, 13-7. Then Ohio State scored on the opening drive of the second half to go up 14-13, their first lead of the game. Beaver Stadium was rocking Saturday night as well. They broke the attendance record again, 110,889 people. Broke the attendance record from last year that stood for 15 years before they broke it last year. But then this past Saturday, they broke last year's record. And Penn State's had good games, in that 15, 16-year span. But, you had a top 10 matchup this past weekend, and Ohio State got the best. The Buckeyes got the best of the Nittany Lions. It stayed 14-13 until Penn State scored 2 times in a matter of 5 minutes early in the fourth quarter. On that second touchdown that Penn State scored, Penn State ended up going for 2. It was smart to go for 2 at that point. Like I said, that missed field goal early in the first quarter, though, came back and bit them in the ass. So it's 26-14 at this point. Penn State had the ball then again. It's 4th and 1 in field goal range. They call a timeout, end up going for it, and they throw it on 4th and 1. So Ohio State gets the ball back. Poor clock management in this position in this point of the game, and tackling, especially on the next drive for Ohio State, because Ohio State ran a bubble screen basically the entire game, which, by the way, Penn State could not stop the entire game. And more credit to Ohio State on that. Like I said, you got to give credit where credit is due. You run the same play until your opponent stops it, and that's what they did, because Penn State could not stop the bubble screen. It's basically common sense in the game of football. So a 47-yard touchdown pass on that bubble screen after Ohio State got the ball back down 26-14. Benjamin Victor danced his way into the end zone. The ball should have been batted down one. He did catch it. He should have been tackled right away. There's like 4 or 5 guys around him. Like I said, somehow he danced his way 47 yards for a touchdown my way in the north end zone there. So it's 26-21. Ohio State scored. Then on the next drive, some more poor clock management once again. So Penn State punts. They did pin him deep, kicked it right down the middle of the field. I don't know why they did that. They should have kicked it in the corner, punted it right down the middle of the field. They did pin him deep though at the 4-yard line. But then the very first play of that drive at the 4-yard line, Dwayne Haskins found J.K. Dobbins on a halfback screen, and Dobbins danced his way 35 yards up the field. Dobbins, he had 2 touchdowns on the night, by the way, as well. But then Ohio State just kept driving. Penn State couldn't stop them. 96 yards, Ohio State scores once again, goes up 27-26. They did go for 2 on that. They did not convert. It was another smart 2-point conversion. If they would have got it, they would have been up 29-26. Penn State gets the ball back then, has to drive and then kick a game-tying field goal. But Ohio State did not get the 2-point conversion, so it's 27-26. Penn State gets the ball back. And yeah, if they would have called a better play on 1st and 2nd down and not had a penalty on that drive right there as well, they wouldn't have been in the 4th and 5 situation that they got themselves into. And then on 4th and 5 there, they ended up running a zone read after both teams called timeouts against each other. Penn State called the first one, iced themselves. They saw what type of formation Ohio State was in on defense. Ohio State called another timeout, called their first timeout, then saw what type of formation Penn State was on offense. Penn State called another one, ended up running a zone read to Marcus Allen, who was wearing Miles Sanders, Marcus Allen, not the former running back for the Oakland Raiders, Los Angeles Raiders, Oakland Raiders. Marcus Allen played for Penn State, playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers now. To Miles Sanders, he was wearing number 8 for Mark Allen. Marcus Allen, Mark Allen. So you know where I'm going there. You know how I got mixed up on that. But anyways, they run a zone read to Miles Sanders on 4th and 5. Whether or not that was a play from the start, I don't know. No one's obviously going to say. James Franklin did take the blame for it. Ricky Ronnie did as well, the offensive coordinator who took over for Joe Moorhead, who's down at Mississippi State now. They've lost 2 in a row. I'll get to that here in a minute. But they run it on 4th and 5 on their last possession of the game when they passed it on 4th and 1 earlier in the game. Doesn't make sense. So again, poor clock management, bad tackling, and some bad play calls. In my opinion, I was there. Penn State as well. What else have I written down here? They couldn't capitalize. This fits right in. They could not capitalize on Ohio State's mistakes. Dwayne Haskins had an interception. He did throw for 3 touchdowns. Had an interception though. And Penn State, they had some good field position throughout the game, but they couldn't get anything going. They settled for field goals. You got to score touchdowns in these type of games, these big games. It's top 10 showdown. That's what Ohio State did 2 years ago. They settled for field goals here in Happy Valley. They ended up losing by 3. So now the last 3 meetings between these 2 schools have been decided by 5 points or less, and now the last 2 have been decided by 1 point. Penn State should have won, in my opinion. That's why they play the games, though. It's not decided on paper. I know what I said last week, and I'm coming back with it. I'm taking I'm taking the blame for it, for what I said last week. But like I said, they didn't because of their own stupidity, plain and simple. They probably should have passed there instead of running it on 4th and 5, and they should have ran it on 4th and 1 instead of passing. Both turnover on downs. They did not convert there on 4th down both times. But all in all, it was a great game. Best game of the season so far. Actually in the top 5 on an ESPN network, ratings wise, in September, on a Saturday in September, ranks in this Penn State Ohio State game from this past Saturday ranks in the top 5 ratings wise in a game on Saturday on ESPN in September in the past 14 years, back to 2004. 14 years. Hard to believe it's been 14 years since 2004. The refs let them play. I thought the calls were fair. I know I'm dragging on here a little bit about this Penn State Ohio State game, but I think a lot of people were pissed. I know I was. I don't think I said a damn word until I got home. But the bye week now for Penn State can't come at a better time. They got a bye week this upcoming weekend, so no Penn State football. They got Michigan State though at home next week on the 13th of October. Then they go to Indiana, get Iowa at home on the 27th, go to Michigan on November 3rd, and then Wisconsin at home on November 10th. So from the 27th to the 10th of November, they got a 3-week period there against Iowa, Michigan, and Wisconsin. That's going to be tough. It's still early though. A lot of football to be played. Like I said earlier, not rolling out. Penn State get back into contention because they were ranked 9th going into this game, but they only dropped 2 spots because they lost to the top 5 team in the country, the 4th overall Ohio State Buckeyes at the time. But again, credit to the Ohio State Buckeyes on a huge victory this past Saturday night right here in Happy Valley during the Penn State whiteout. As I said, Haskins had an interception for Ohio State. He was 22 for 39 though, 270 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Trace McSorley, a little over 50% or 50% passing, 16 of 32, 286 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. But then McSorley on the ground, 25 carries and 175 yards rushing. So that's recapping week 5. I'll get into week 6 here now. Like I said, I dragged on a little bit there a little bit ago. But week 6 now starts on Friday night for me. Georgia Tech and Louisville in the ACC. Give me the Cardinals over the Yellow Jackets. Utah State and BYU. BYU, I think, is going to win that. Alabama goes to Fayetteville to play Arkansas. I would love to pick Arkansas in this game. Would love to pick the Hogs, but roll Tide. Missouri, another SEC matchup. Missouri goes to South Carolina. Give me the Tigers over the Gamecocks. Maryland goes to Michigan. The Wolverines have won the last 3, dating back to 2015, 2014, the first year Maryland was in the Big Ten. They went up to Ann Arbor and won. And then these teams have had history back in the 80s and 90s. But the Wolverines, Michigan's won the last 3 by a combined score of 122-13. So make it 4 in a row for Michigan over Maryland on Saturday. The other Michigan team, Michigan State, they play Northwestern in East Lansing, who played Michigan in Evanston last weekend. And Northwestern almost beat Michigan last weekend. They should have. They had a 17-0 lead, and Michigan scored 20 unanswered. And Michigan came back and beat the Wildcats. But Michigan State, I think they'll beat Northwestern, even though Northwestern has won 3 of the last 4 over the Spartans. So give me Michigan State and Michigan at home over Maryland and Northwestern. The 113th overall meeting in the Red River Rivalry will be happening at noon on Saturday. Texas and Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas. Give me Texas over Oklahoma. Kyler Murray is going to be hard to stop, but I think Texas finds a way to get it done. College game day will be in Dallas for this game. Boston College goes to NC State. Give me the Eagles over the Wolfpack. LSU goes to Gainesville, goes to Swamp to play Florida, as I said a minute ago. This game's at 3:30 on CBS. close, but LSU will find a way to win before playing Georgia next week on the road. College Game Day will probably be in Athens for that. That'll be a top 5 matchup as of now. And then LSU will also play Mississippi State and Alabama in the weeks to come, going into the beginning of November. I believe LSU has a bye week in there as well, so they'll get some rest. But they got a tough schedule, as I said. Penn State has a tough schedule as well. But LSU playing the SEC. You want to compare the SEC with the Big Ten right now? LSU, their schedule is a little bit tougher than Penn State's. As I said, Penn State has Iowa, Michigan, and Wisconsin in a 3-week span. LSU has Florida this weekend, Georgia next weekend. I believe they have a bye then, and then Mississippi State and Alabama. Or the bye might come after the Mississippi State game, and then they play Alabama, one of the two. But give me the Tigers over the Gators. I think LSU finds a way to win. Iowa goes to Minnesota. Low scoring, Iowa wins. Clemson goes to Wake Forest. Chase Bryce, he might play in this game a little bit, depending on how Trevor Lawrence plays. He got banged up there. He was in concussion protocol, hurt his neck there a little bit last weekend in his first career start after Kelly Bryant transferred. He has not decided on where he's going to transfer to. Maybe he comes back. Dabo Swinney even said he'd welcome him back. But Trevor Lawrence will start. But give me Clemson on the road. Closer than the experts. I can't talk. Closer than the experts think. Give me Clemson over Wake Forest. Thanks for sticking around and watching. I'm going to hurry up here. Got some more good games Saturday afternoon going into Saturday night. Some SEC showdowns, some Big Ten showdowns as well. But we'll start in the ACC here. Continue in the ACC. Old school rivalry. Florida State and Miami. Last year, Miami went up to Tallahassee. They won on a last-second touchdown. Miami playing at home this year. Florida State banged up, not really playing that well. Give me the U over the Seminoles. By the way, before I move on any further, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Gridiron Ring on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, over on Periscope, and go check out Gridiron Ring's website as well. All the links are in the description below, so just scroll down, check those links out, and go like, follow, and subscribe to Gridiron Ring on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Periscope, and check out Gridiron Ring's website. My Twitter and Instagram handle, the link to that is also down in the description. Some Mountain West action. San Diego State goes to Boise State. Give me the Broncos over the Aztecs. Arizona State goes to Colorado. Colorado, the Buffs, they looked good last week versus UCLA. They came back and defeated Chip Kelly's squad. They're going to have to stop Eno Benjamin, the Arizona State running back who rushed for 312 yards last week at home. But Colorado playing at home, tough place to play. Give me the Buffs over the Sun Devils. Indiana goes to Columbus to play Ohio State. This game will be close early, but Ohio State will pull away in the second half, so give me the Buckeyes over the Hoosiers. Some SEC showdowns now, some SEC action. Kentucky goes to Texas A&M. Vanderbilt goes to Georgia, and Auburn goes to Mississippi State. Give me all the home teams in those 3 games. So give me Texas A&M, Georgia, and Mississippi State. And 2 of those, if they happen, if A&M beats Kentucky and Mississippi State beats Auburn, those would be considered upsets, with both Auburn and Kentucky ranked in the top 13 in the country. Washington goes to UCLA, and Nebraska goes to Wisconsin. 2 of those 4 teams are 0-4, UCLA and Nebraska. Give me both U dubs. So give me Washington on the road in Pasadena against UCLA, and give me Wisconsin at home against Nebraska. So both UCLA and Nebraska will fall to 0-5 this season. Wouldn't have thought that at all. I would have thought both these teams would probably be at least 2-2 by now, but you know, that's why they play the games. It's not decided on paper, it's decided on the field. Notre Dame goes to Virginia Tech, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Saturday night on ABC. College Game Day would probably be in Blacksburg this weekend if the Hokies didn't lose to Old Dominion 2 weeks ago. But as I said, Game Day is going to be down in Dallas or the Red River Rivalry game between Texas and Oklahoma. Game day experience last weekend was great as well. My 4th college game day experience. So if you have the chance to go to a college game day, I highly suggest going. Yeah, you'll stand there for a couple hours, but it'll be well worth it. The Irish, they've had 2 solid weeks now in a row against Wake Forest, and this past weekend against who the hell did Notre Dame play last weekend? Now I'm going to draw a blank. They played Stanford at home. That's right, on Saturday night. That was the other big game this past weekend. The Irish, they've had 2 solid weeks now against Wake Forest and Stanford after having 2 average weeks, 2 down weeks. They almost lost to Ball State and Vanderbilt. They almost stumbled in those games. Virginia Tech, tough place to play. They'll be playing Enter Sandman when they come out like they normally do. But the quarterback change for Notre Dame has helped the Irish in those 4 games, that 4-game span. You know, the first 2 against Ball State and Vandy, they almost stumbled, almost lost, but then they come back, put up 50+ against Wake Forest, and beat Stanford, a top 10 team, by 21 at home. So Ian Book came in for Brandon Wimbush. He can do it all. He can pass the ball and run the ball. So give me Notre Dame on the road. I know I said Virginia Tech in Lane Stadium, tough place to play, but give me the Irish over the Hokies. Utah goes to Stanford, who played on the road against Notre Dame last weekend. Stanford, I think, will bounce back. I don't know why I drew a blank there with who Notre Dame played last weekend, so I'm sorry about that. But Stanford, I think, will bounce back after losing to Notre Dame last week. So give me Stanford at home against Utah. Fresno State goes to Nevada. Fresno State's been averaging 45 points a game in this season so far, compared to Nevada's 38. This game will be close, but give me Fresno State on the road. And then the last game, I will predict the 24th game that I'm going to be predicting this weekend. Wyoming goes to Hawaii. This game will be at midnight Saturday night, 7 o'clock local time kick in Hawaii. As Hawaii is 5 hours behind the East Coast here in the U.S. They're looking for their 6th win to become bowl eligible for the 2nd time in 3 years after not going bowling the previous 5 seasons. So give me the Rainbow Warriors at home. Give me Hawaii over Wyoming on Saturday night. So thanks for watching my college football 2018 Week 6 predictions. Be sure, as I said earlier, to go watch my NFL 2018 Week 5 predictions and my WWE Super Showdown 2018 preview predictions. So, as I said, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Gridiron Ring on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Periscope, and go check out Gridiron Ring's website as well. All the links are in the description below.